All right. I am Kevin the Visionary, and I'm here with Antonio Perez. So, Mr. Perez reached out to me and he told me he had a story that he wanted to share. And I was like, well, hey, share away, right? So, what you're going to discover today, what you're going to hear about, is the fact that Antonio worked with a very popular, famous herbalist, and he has some interesting insights that he wants to share on his journey working with this particular person. I chose not to say any names because it's not about name calling, but it's about the information. And so we're going to talk today. We're going to find out some really important things that I think that people who are considering veganism, plant-based, considering, detoxing and doing all the things that are recommended as a lifestyle for a long term. You're going to hear some very interesting insights on that. So, Mr. Antonio, how's it going?
It's going very, very well. How you doing, Kevin?
Not too bad. I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited about today because originally we were supposed to do a live on Instagram, and I said, no, we got to do something bigger than that. And so we decided to do a recording. So tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you currently do, or your journey, where you're at. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so as you said, Antonio Perez, right? Um, so I would say my whole life I've been dealing with health issues, right? A lot of us have been. So I can definitely say I've been dealing with a lot of gut issues, irritable bowel syndrome, um, for sure HSV or HPV. I'm not exactly sure which one, but I can say that I was dealing with these things from a very young age. So, I lived with them for a long time, a lot of years. Almost actually, when I was 7, I almost actually died
Wow.
um, because I couldn't defecate for almost 6 weeks straight. Um, I actually, by the time I realized it, you know what I mean, I told my mom, rushed me to the hospital. They had to, go inside, help unclog me. So from that moment forward, for the next almost 20 years, I lived with that issue. I probably used the restroom maybe once a week, at the most twice. And I ate a lot of food, processed food, meats,
Man.
junks, fast food. So just imagine, all of these different types of foods just piling up inside of my intestines, my gut. And I'm not using the restroom every day, not even consistently throughout the week. So it got to the point where I was just like, man, let me see what I can do for myself. So I started, that's when around 27, 28, I started doing my own research into just different other ways of eating, detoxing, cleansing, different forms and methods of it. Um, so I like it myself as someone who does extensive research before I jump into things. So I ended up coming across a couple people, um, pretty well known people. Uh, Most of us know them, right? Um, so I said, at first I thought the whole methodology and all that stuff was crazy. I really, it was a whole new
Right.
paradigm for me. I'm like, is this really real? So after about a month or so contemplating it, I said, let me just give it a try. Let me just see what happens. So I ended up going 30 days straight of just eating seeded grapes and
Ooh.
drinking a lot of spring water, at least a gallon a day. Um, I mean, I didn't do nothing else, and the results were amazing. I will say that. And I ended up using one herb. It was Cascara Sagala.
Okay. I'm
That was
familiar.
the one herb that I used outside of the seeded grapes and the water. That was literally it. Um, and the results were just amazing. At one point I used the restroom like 10 times in one day, and for
Ooh.
someone who was dealing what I was dealing with, that's like I was in heaven. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Like, and just going and going and going, and it got so consistent. And then, after about 30 days, I ended up purchasing other herbs and stuff like that, but it wasn't those herbs that really did the job for me, you know.
Okay.
So I like to say I don't think the herbs are the most important aspect of somebody cleansing. I really truly don't, based upon my experience with myself and just others that I know. But for the most part, after that, I was using the restroom consistently on a daily
Mm,
basis.
okay.
Um, and then over time, I just kept riding with it and I stuck to it. I thought it was something that I could turn into a lifestyle because
Yep.
of the results I got, right? So I was so excited and happy and just, joyous of the fact that, wow, my gut is working much more efficiently than it ever did in my entire life. So I'm like, this must be my, my diet or
Right.
whatever. That's what my mind was telling me at the time. So I wrote it out. Um, but over the years, you know, my body started, responding differently to the diet. And my mind, it's like my body was giving my mind messages saying, hey, this isn't sufficient, this isn't sustainable. um, Something else is, you know started happening. Now my health started getting a little bit, you know worse, so to say.
Okay.
So I started reaching out to a couple other brothers that I know, that were doing things differently, just picking at their mind and their brain, and hearing from them about other stuff that was out there, right?
Hmm.
Um, I started questioning everything. And then I was like, well, where do I go from here? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, I thought this was it. Talking about the fruitarian type of lifestyle, or the vegan type of lifestyle. I really thought that that was something I could sustain for the remaining years of my life while I was here.
Right.
Um, but
So hold
now,
on. So you about to go into a segment that I want to tackle later. So let's
okay.
let's back up just a little bit. So so you got, some results from using herbs and basically fasting, because when you're eating fruits, just grapes, you're really not getting any nutrients. So um, now, from the time that you started, how did you get in contact, or how did you connect with this herbalist, this popular herbalist that we're talking about? Like, what was that time frame?
So that time frame was back in 2019 going into 2020.
Okay.
So after doing it, right? Because he's the one who kind of put provided the information. I absorbed it, processed it, and was like, okay, let me do this. From the moment I got the results, I started being in more direct contact. You know, being on top of watching the content, being in the live videos, commenting, just reaching out, sending emails, things in that nature. So I started showing that I was, very intrigued by the information and the methodology, and just putting myself out there to
Hmm.
let him know, hey, I like what you're doing. It helped my health. Um, and I wouldn't mind, working with you, so to say, more directly, because I'm somebody who just wants to absorb information
Right.
in many different ways. That's just who I am. A lot of people are, right? So
Hmm.
that's pretty much around 2019, 2020 is when that started. And
So
for the
so
next,
you
go ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say for the next 2 years, I was very, very consistent um, with following them, to the
So
point
now,
where I became like an administrator on the lives, where I was able to kind of be more interactive with the audience.
okay. So now, so once, so did they reach out to you, or you reached out to them, or was it like a mutual thing? How did that?
No, that just happened. So one day I got on the live and I had the so in the YouTube, in the live chat box, they have that
Mhm.
wrench.
Yep.
one day I got in the live and I had the wrench and my name was Blue. I didn't even know. I was just like, I thought it was a mistake.
Right.
And then in one of the live videos, not that same day, or either that one or the next one, he actually told me in the live video. It was like, I made you, he's called me out on the live video and said, Antonio, I know you're in here because you can see my name that I was active in there. And he was like, I made you, a moderator. So if you need to kick anybody out the group who's not, who's trying to just cause issues and, be, combative within the chat, he gave me the authority to, remove people and things in that nature and answer people's questions for when he couldn't get to them.
Okay.
So that's when that's where it all stemmed and started from. That's when I knew, like, okay, he's been noticing me.
Mm-hmm. So what was the next step after that? So, he noticed you, he gave you the option to help him out, sometimes moderate. So what followed after that?
So after that, it carried on for, I want to say, a few months, at least a good few months for sure, maybe even close to half a year. And then after that, they reached out to me and offered me a role on the team.
Okay, and what was that role?
That role was pretty much, it was kind of similar to what we were doing, but it was more direct within the company.
Okay.
So now I had access to the actual website platform where they had like a chat bubble for people to go on and reach out, things in that nature. So now I was dealing with clients more direct instead of just people jumping in a live video.
Right. Okay. It was more personal.
Yup.
Okay. And then so you did that, and then what followed after that?
So I did that for about a good 4 to 5 months, I'll say. And then after that, they ended up promoting me into more of a consultation role. So now instead of emails, I was actually, talking to about 100 clients a month on the phone,
a lot of people
doing the consultations. And then from there, I did that for about almost 7 months.
Okay.
Doing the consultations.
And so 100 people a month. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
and that
a
was
lot to deal with.
all over the world.
I can imagine. And so I'm not, really big on Instagram as far as I don't have a whole lot of followers, but my DM is always active. People are always sending me stuff. They're always asking me questions. Like, I talk to a lot of people from all over. So I can imagine with what I'm dealing with compared to what, this particular person, how many people was reaching out. And so you're dealing with, now, was it just you, or were there other people similar to you?
So from what I was told, I was not the only one, but I was the main one.
Okay.
I can say that for sure, that I was the main. You could basically call me the head consultant.
The head consultant. Okay.
Yeah, because they definitely let it be known and aware that I would be taking on most of the consultations.
Mm-hmm.
So
as you consulted, you shared a few things with me, and I'll just kind of let you kind of figure out how you want to say that. But so as you consulted, what was some of the positive and negatives that you saw as you were doing these consultations?
So I'll start with the positive things, right? The most amazing thing was these people were all over the world. So it gave me insight on, how important geographical location was when it comes to any type of diet change, fasting, or eating lifestyle, because these are people who are trying to truly heal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I dealt with very sick people, not just small issues. I mean, I didn't even really know that it was going to be on that type of level. So as I was consulting with a lot of these people. In the beginning, it was kind of rough because it was a lot. I
Can
knew I could
imagine.
hold my weight. I knew I could hold my weight though, right?
Right.
So I had to just kind of, find my groove within it because I didn't really expect that. But the most positive thing about it all was they taught me so much because they gave me so much insight on everything that they've been through, what they've been trying to do, all the way down to, doctors, to family members, to themselves, to their environment, to everything. So as I started absorbing like all of that, it gave me insight to know like it's different for everyone, literally. Like there
Hmm.
is no end all be all type of thing. And, what works for one is not going to always work for the other.
So let me
So
ask
I
you this. So
Go
so
ahead.
was it sold as a one size fit all? You just take these herbs or you just do this one thing and it fixes? Was that the kind of
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. I would say yes.
okay.
I definitely was given, instructions. They provided me with kind of basically instructions. Like this is the way we've been doing them. This is the way we want you to continue to do them for us, so that they could
Okay.
take a back seat to doing them and work on whatever they were working on. I couldn't really tell you because I wasn't in the same state. I did this from my home state.
Okay.
Um, so
Now what about
that
what are some of the negatives that you encountered?
a lot of it wasn't working. I'm just going to be blunt with it. A lot of, and I'm just going based off of what they've shared with me, right? The ones who were spending the money, doing the work, um, and we can say a lot like, were they doing it correctly? Were they doing this? Were they doing that? But
Right.
that's to me that that's not consistent enough. Like we can say that about anybody and anything. Like the point of the matter is, it's being sold that this is going to be, you know, the most impactful lifestyle change that you could make for your health. And a lot of clients were coming back with no results. A lot of clients were coming back saying, hey, I don't have access to this. How do I do it? Um, hey, this is, like, this is taking a very, very long time. I've put a lot of energy into this. You know what I mean? I've had people, just pour their hearts out to me, right? Because I became universal, especially towards the middle. Like I got to the point where I was capable of morphing into what I needed to morph into and provide them with anything and everything that they needed within that consultation timeline, because I was very
Okay.
limited. Um, and sometimes I went out of my way. I did because I actually care. I truly care for people. So I would go out of my way and spend extra my own time. What I mean, stuff that I wasn't getting compensated for. Um,
Okay.
and when it started getting overwhelming, where I was spending a lot of my time trying to assist them, it just let me know that one, you can't fix somebody's health in a 30-minute consultation. Two, the methodology was no longer sufficient enough for most people in today's society. That's just the truth. Like from what I've collected out of talking to over 700 clients in a half a year's time frame. This isn't coming from me. This is coming from them
From them.
collectively together. You put them all together. Yeah.
So
So
in that now did you start to develop some sense of, maybe I'm not doing the right thing? Like, was there any type of, anything that kind of made you second guess or question what you were doing? Because here's the reason why I'm asking. this person is very popular. This person has a lot of influence in certain spaces. This person has been on uh, platforms that are very popular, I would say, right? They've been on a lot of podcasts, and so they're very influential. They have a big name, a big following. Did you feel any type of? I think your reception starting out a bit. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. Uh-oh, you froze up. All right, there you go. I'll
Okay,
try to
I'm
crop.
good.
I'll try to crop this part out. So this person's very influential, has a big following. A lot of people know him. He's been on, top big platforms and stuff like that. So was there a time or maybe towards the end when you started to kind of maybe have doubts or second guess what you were doing?
Most definitely. Um, I would probably say halfway between um, me going into the actual consultations. So when I started doing the emails, I noticed, there was a lot of people reaching out and how overwhelming it was. But then when I started talking to them personally on the phone, about halfway in, when I got really comfortable talking to these people, um, because I will say that, so I always prepared myself for every client the best that I could, right?
Hmm.
Because I'm not physically with these people, and it would just be much easier to do that. So I had to work with what I had, right? Halfway in, I knew something was off. Something just didn't sit right with me. So I kind of planted a seed in my mind after talking with a couple people really close to me who knew what I was doing. Um, you know, I just kind of asked them, like, hey, this is the way I'm feeling. What do you think? You know what I mean? Because I never shared any information with anybody um, outside of, who I was working with or
Right.
working under. Um, so when I kept telling them, like, hey, this feeling isn't going away. What do I do? What would you do? Um, and that's when I told myself, like, all right, I gotta go. This is,
Right.
you know, um, I no longer felt comfortable,
Oh,
doing
you're
this
it's
consultation.
breaking up again.
How about now?
Uh, it's better, but it's still kind of choppy. I think it's the reception.
Let's see, I got some Wi-Fi on right now. Let's see if I shut it off.
Uh-oh. I think that killed it. Okay. That's better. It's still I still could kind of hear the gremlins going on in the background.
Yeah.
Um,
Let's see. How about now?
yeah, it's much better. It sounds
Okay.
like maybe is there a fan on or something?
No, no fan.
Okay, I just hear some background noise. Um, okay, so now you mentioned, just so that people understand, the ramifications. Now you mentioned that now how close did you eventually become to this person? Like, did you meet them personally? Like, what was that relationship with as time went on?
So towards the last couple months, I did get close. I did attend several events. You know what I mean? Hug the individual, talk with them for a little bit, um, and then later on, maybe even a month later, I ended up going out to the actual warehouse facility. I spent a few days there. I sat at a restaurant. I ate with them. Had a full blown conversation. I actually enjoyed myself. And then, I've met their children. My son has played with their children. You know what I mean? So I would say, even though I didn't spend a lot of physical, personal time with them very often, you know what I mean, we were pretty close. We considered ourselves brothers.
Okay.
You know, I was welcome for sure.
Okay. So let me see what else I got on my list here. So what was it that gave you the push or the nudge to uh, change your mind, have second thoughts, walk away? Like, what was the thing that pushed you in that direction?
The lack of communication. So, there was times where client situations were over me. You know what I mean? And I'm okay with admitting that, right? You know what I mean? I'm not going to sit here and act like I know everything. So when I came across clients who just, it's like, whoa, that's, you know what I mean? And it still blows my mind to know that I seen what I seen, and heard what I heard from said clients.
Right.
From pictures, to all types of stuff. Even videos. They shared a lot with me. They were completely open, and I was okay with it because it gave me more insight on how to best help them. So when I would reach out, I wouldn't get the response that was needed for the client, not for me, right? I'm not reaching out to for any other reason.
Right.
This is not my client. So and I always, I was always professional. Like, I'm under you, I'm working
Right.
with you, I'm helping you. So when I reached out, nothing. You know what I mean? And it's just something that I didn't want to be a part of, mainly because of that reason alone. And there was many other things, that were conspiring in the background,
Yeah.
um, that just allowed me to know it really wasn't going to change. So I didn't know the direction of where they were going with it, and what was the reasoning behind it. So I kind of walked away.
Okay. So how did you hear about me? Like, what gave you the nudge to reach out to me?
A client, actually, a former client, because I did still have clients reaching out to me, for help. To the point they were offering me money. Never took it, but I did provide, sound advice to the best of my ability. And then, after giving them the advice, they ended up sending me one of your videos. And they were like,
Ah,
hey, check this out. Like, what do you think? Can you give me your insight? So I watched it, the whole video. And I was very intrigued by everything that you were saying, because I was already going in a similar direction of wanting to know more about that side of the spectrum,
mhm.
because I had left it for so many years, um, and I was already, moving in that direction to say, hey, let me see what's on that side, and what could be beneficial.
Okay. So you saw the video, and what was the information, or what was it about the video that made you say, let me think about this some more?
One word that stood out the most was bioavailability, right? So in the video, you were talking about, different foods, different liquids, and how some of them are very bioavailable, how some of them are just very beneficial for your gut, depending on where you source them. So when
Mhm.
you had said that, it opened up my mind to the point where I was like, you know what, that that makes so much sense. Like, and I'll give you a comparison in the prime example that I use. Um, Not to judge anyone, but most vegans eat mass produced pineapples from Costa Rica, right? We know this is happening. And we know when you mass produce anything, the quality of it goes down. And then if you take something like, let's say, uh, farm raised, meat. I mean, the difference in them two are exponential. Like,
Mm-hmm.
the farm raised meat is by far going to be much more bioavailable and much more nutrient dense and much more better for your gut and overall health than those mass produced pineapples, no matter how many of them you eat,
Right.
because it comes down to the soil. So if the
Mm-hmm.
people with the farm raised meat were taking care of their cows and raising them like they were their own, and they, you know, understood the importance of the soil and the land and all of these things, right? Because a lot of people out there do. Like, I don't know where we got it in our heads to think that those people don't exist anymore, but it's happening. I see it
Right.
all the time. I'm very aware. But then we'll turn around and we'll say, um, these mass-produced pineapples are alkaline and they're much more healthier for you. But it's like,
Right.
really, like, let's really get down. We want to get deep into it. You know where
Mm-hmm.
I'm going with this.
Yeah, I mean, so it's a lot of it is regurgitated information. A lot of it, it's, you know, for instance, right? And this is, one of those things where I put, I put this out there and it was really purposeful, right? So I did a live a few months back with a particular person and I asked them a few questions. They're plant-based and they had no idea they can answer one question. Good brother, it had nothing to do with us versus them, but it was simply to show that the information that we think we know, we're just getting it from somebody else without really putting in any time to do any research. So, I had somebody ask me today. They said, you know, I hear about, when you eat meat, it takes a long time to digest and it's dead foods. And, we need to eat foods that are alive because our body needs live foods. And so my response was the human body has no incrementation, no understanding of live versus dead. The human body only understands vitamins, minerals, carbs, proteins, water, and fats. So anything you consume gets broken down into that category. The body, the small intestines have no idea whether the food is alive or dead. So, something that simple that we regurgitate, but it makes absolutely no sense when you understand the human anatomy, you know? And so,
Definitely.
yeah, I totally understand. So, what should people know about the herbalist community, herbalism, plant-based lifestyle that these popular herbalists, these popular people don't show? What's some stuff in the background that people should know about?
So what I would say to that is, um, they don't know if they're really doing what they're telling them to do. You know what I mean? We can get on a camera and say anything we want to say and push people in any direction that we so choose, especially if we have the influence, right? Um, and you can hide yourself from all of them because you're not going to let them completely inside, especially if you're pushing an agenda or, some type of, what would you call it?
An agenda.
Yeah, you see, there's a little trying to justify some actions, right? It don't work, and I just tried, but you said it correctly, man. It's an agenda. You know what I mean, it's a paradigm, it's a box, and I like to tell people when you have influence, right? You can create a paradigm, you can create a box, and you can place people in that box.
Mhm.
And now you can manipulate their energy and utilize it to your greater needs for financial gains, for to propel yourself and put you on this pedestal and have people praising you and all types of stuff. Um, and I seen it firsthand. I was a part of it, and that's
Right.
partly reason why I reached out to you, because it's like, nah, I'm no longer going to be a part of something like that, and I'm not going to allow myself to just be quiet either. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? No matter what comes my way, I'm definitely well prepared. I understand. I mean, both everything. I mean, I really do. There's two sides of the spectrum, and it's all about balance. I mean, don't spend too much
Okay.
time on one side or the other. You
Right.
have to find that balance, and that's what it really comes down to. So when you have someone who's who's not sharing that type of information, and they probably know that that's the truth of the matter, like finding that balance between it all, that just lets you know that they're definitely, doing something in the background that they're not telling you.
It's definitely
So
possible.
definitely.
So, so, so you start off with this very popular herbalist, and you started helping him out. You guys became a team. You started becoming one of his counselors, and now you understand a little bit more about nutrients and nutrition. So, what did you learn about healing versus nourishing the body?
Healing is a small process. It's something that needs to be taken. Like, you really need to know. You have to sit down with yourself and ask yourself what you're trying to do, and formulate a sense of direction. Once you do that, then you can start healing. Um, in in my personal and professional opinion, it doesn't take that long to heal. Depending, now, don't get me wrong, there are some very chronic issues out there that may take longer than the normal, but for most of it, it doesn't take that long. It really doesn't. Not if you really do the necessary work and open up the proper channels. It's gonna happen quickly. I just
Mhm.
sat here and said it, right? I'm someone. Most people are dealing. A lot of people deal with HSV, right? HSV, HPV, HSV2, irritable bowel syndrome. A lot of us have gut issues. These are some pretty, especially HSV. It's a pretty major thing. Um, and without a shadow of a doubt, I know I had it. I know I
Mhm.
did. The
Right.
signs were there when I was cleansing my body. It was showing, like, hey, you got this. I
Mhm.
didn't need a doctor to tell me. Um, so, but it's gone. It's not there. In Within those 30 days, after the 30 days of seeded grapes, I moved into another 30 days where I started implementing like strawberries and apples and blackberries, and things in that nature. And
Mhm.
then from there, um, within 60 days, I was good.
Okay.
It's not a long time. You know what I mean? A lot of people I've come across, they'll have you cleansing for a very long time, and it's
Correct.
like, well, when are you gonna stop, and when are you gonna nourish the body? Like,
Right.
how long are you gonna keep them cleansing? Like, it doesn't need to be that way. Like, start nourishing it. So I
Mhm.
noticed that cleansing doesn't take that long. It's a really quick process, especially if you're really trying to heal. So that's why I always tell people, find that sense of direction first. Ask yourself, what is it you're trying to do? What are you looking for? Um,
Right.
and start there.
Yeah, I found too that a lot of the issues that people deal with, including myself, that I dealt with, when you eliminate some of these processed foods, right? That takes away half of the things that most people deal with. It's the root cause of a lot of stuff. And so when you nourish the body, because a lot of times when you eat these processed foods, you're not really eating the foods that's responsible for nourishing the body. So one, you're sick because you're malnourished, you're low on, vitamin B and vitamin D and all these different things. You're low on iron, right? Because you think you're eating food, but you're not. And so the body is not getting the bioavailable, like you said earlier, the bioavailable nutrients that it needs. And so it starts to act out. It starts to create inflammation. It starts to do all these things as a protective mechanism. And you're like, oh, I don't know what's wrong. And your body's like, hey, we need real food. Hey, we need you to stop dealing with these chemicals. And so a lot of times when you're on a plant-based diet or when you're on a vegan diet, you get great results in the beginning because what? You're not dealing with all of these processed foods. And so in your mind, you're like, oh, yeah, it's the meat, it's the eggs, it's the cheese. Because see, I'm getting all this results, but nobody ever stops to think, yeah, but you're also not drinking the sodas and the energy drinks, and you're not consuming the pies and the cakes and all the other stuff that you were eating when you were on a sad diet. So it's one of those things where it's the nourishment that the body really needs, and we think we're eating, but we're really not.
For sure. And to piggyback off what you just said, um, most of us who go into this, even if you go into certain vegan ones, right? Like, let's say you don't do the processed vegan foods. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? And you get into all the other vegan foods out there, and even the fruitarian lifestyle. Most of us that are looking for the guidance are in North America, right? And we all know and can say that the soil here has been depleted of the minerals like crazy, to the point where I'm gonna give you something, drop a gem for people right now. I made a delivery in, I think it was Illinois. Okay, they were pulling soil off of a boat and putting it into trucks. This soil. Now I asked them. I said, "Hey, what is that down there?" Because it was really black. It looked really rich. It looked good. And I was like, "What is that?" And they were like, "Oh, it's soil. It's fertilizer." I was like, "Where's it coming from?" Venezuela. You see what I'm saying? So they're going outside of the country to get soil because they know the soil here is garbage. So if the soil here is garbage and there's no minerals in it, then that means majority of the food that is grown in the USA is not it's not bioavailable. There's nothing coming from it. You're just eating fruits and vegetables that don't really provide your body with anything
Mm-hmm.
outside of maybe some water. But
Right,
then,
especially
but then,
the commercial stuff for sure.
yeah, and then I also want to say this too. Even if you're getting the fruits from outside of the country, the process to get the fruit here, you know what I mean? It pretty much disrupts and destroys the structure of the water inside the fruit. So even that fruit isn't going to be as great as it could be for you, because the whole process of getting
Right.
it from one country to this country, you know what I mean? All of those vibrations, all of those, you know what I mean? Is disrupting the molecular structure of the fruit. It is. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's just the truth. So it doesn't matter if you're not growing it yourself, if you haven't remineralized the soil yourself, or have someone that you truly, truly trust, or you moved to an island or somewhere where they're not, you know what I mean,
Right,
damaging
right.
and abusing the soil. Well, I don't recommend going plant based. For what? Like, your health is going to take a dip. It's going
Yep.
to.
And like you said, it's if you decide to go plant-based, you could do that. You could do it for a short period of time. But there's so many nutrients that are lacking in plants. And these herbalists and these people convince people. I've heard statements like this: all the nutrients the body needs is in fruit. That's a false statement. Like, if you're convinced that that's true, something is wrong. Now, it is a possibility that you might just believe it because you've never done any research and you're just regurgitating information, and that's understandable. But that is an absolutely false statement, because there's at least 10 different types of nutrients that's not available in any plant. I don't care if it's beans, I don't care if it's turnips, I don't care if it's fruits, it doesn't exist. There's no heme iron in fruits. There's no vitamin D in fruits. There's no DHA in fruits. There's no B12 in fruits. There's no creatine in fruits or vegetables. And I can keep going, right? So the idea that you can live this lifestyle is absurd. And, I was in that boat. I thought that I can do it. I was telling other people that they can do it. And then
Right.
my health started to decline. I started losing weight and started forgetting stuff and having memory problems and dizzy all the time. I sit up, I sit down, I stand up. I'm having to hold on to stuff because I'm all loopy and stuff, thinking that I'm doing something good. And as soon as I incorporated animal fats, my dizzy spells went away. My memory started to come back. It took about at least 6 months for me to gain my memory to the point where I wasn't forgetting stuff all the time, right? And so, it's just one of those things where it's just a sad thing and we need to speak up about it. And I'm glad you took the time to come on and talk to us and let us, let the people know that, you know, it's not what they say it is.
Definitely not.
And so, we're going to end it here, but you got any last words? If you could say a few things to somebody who is either considering veganism or plant-based, who is in the middle of veganism or plant-based, whose health is maybe starting to decline, what's something that you could say to these different people groups? What's some advice you can give them?
Some of the best advice that I would give them is, one, you need to look at the soil. You got to go to the root, right? The source of it, and that's the soil. So, if you're not looking into soil and mycology and understanding the mycelium network, and it's understanding the importance of everything else, because grounding is more important than you eating fruits. You know what I mean? Grounding, putting the soles of your feet on the ground and allowing this mycelium network to connect with your neurological system, your nervous system, because that will happen. And the earth is going to allow your body to, connect with it in a way where it's going to let you know which way you need to go, because we're all different. You know what I mean? And I'll say this, I'm not really into a big meat, but I drink raw cow milk, you know what I mean, from a local farm in my area. You know what I mean? I do mess around with a little ghee, because it has that saturated fat that's really healthy for you. I mean, you're not getting that from fruits and vegetables. And most vegetables aren't doing anything for you at all.
At all.
You know
You're
what I mean? The
basically,
fruit is going to
I
be
like to say,
dehydrated.
yeah, I like to say you're fasting with a little bit of nutrients.
That's it. That's it. So when you know that the soil is depleted, you know what I mean, then that lets you know that you need the animals, right? Because these animals are able to eat so much more than you. And if you look at the animals, right, the cows and the buffaloes and the goats and stuff, they're grounding all day.
All day.
All day. So that mycelium network that's under the ground is directly connected to these animals all day. And it's pulling everything and anything that animal could ever need. Minerals, alkaloids, cannabinoids, omegas, whatever it is that you could ever imagine. The mycelium network is pulling it to that localized area where that cow, that goat, whatever animal it is, and it's providing nourishment to this animal. So then when you go and you get away from factory farming and you go to local farming, and you utilize your local farms and you start eating that stuff or drinking that stuff, just imagine
It's a game changer.
everything that you are dumping into your body. Prime example, my son. The moment I gave my son raw cow milk, health took off like a rocket. Like a rocket. It blew my mind to the point where he's down to like 1 cup a day. He was almost at 3 cups a day for about I want to say a good 6 weeks. Good 6 weeks.
That's his
Now,
body is saying he was craving it because from the lack of it.
man, in children will just let you know if you really study and watch them. So he let me know when he was taking it in, his weight, everything. Just it blew my mind, man. I wish I could show it to the world. And one day, I may so very well to give people more insight on the benefits of going to your local farmers. You know what I mean? And actually spending time in learning from these people, because they know way more than these mainstream herbalists and these mainstream healers, hands down. So my advice would be stick to your local area, go do some studying with your local farmers, ask questions, and get off the internet. Get off the internet. If your health ain't right, and you just feel like you're just looking to look and you don't really know what you're doing, you probably don't need to be on social media. You know what I mean? Tap into your local areas, because they're very smart people and they know what they're doing. I learned a lot from the Amish community. You know what I mean? I really did. I praise those people because they taught me so much. I spent 3 hours on my local farm studying.
Oh, wow.
I didn't just go up there to buy raw cow milk. I went up there to learn, because they'll teach you. They want to,
Right.
because they know the benefits of what they're doing, and they'll help way more than you know what I mean, people on Instagram or Facebook or whatever you want to call it. So
Okay. Well, hey, listen, it was a pleasure, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to share this. I'm glad we decided not to name drop because, it's one of those things where it's not about that. It's about the content. It's about understanding that there are statements being made that are false. And if you don't take the time to research, and look up sometimes the opposite of what you think you should be looking at. Like, for instance, you know, does meat cause disease? Okay, that's the question. Of course, you're going to find that answer if you look that up, right?
right.
But why don't instead of looking up does meat cause disease, look up how does meat digest or process in the human body, and you'll get a total different perspective of
Most definitely.
what you've been told. So I really appreciate you, and thank you very much for taking the time to do this. And we'll talk soon.
I appreciate you, man. I'm grateful, thankful forever. And it was a pleasure doing this with you. And anytime, my brother.
Yeah, we'll definitely do this again.
I definitely got a whole lot to say. I mean, with so many things. So it was a pleasure, for sure.
All right, take care.
You as well.
All
Likewise.
right, bye.